All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session hosted by Mentor Spaces. This discussion is about failing to learn. We have a great panel of mentors who have joined us, as well as a guest moderator who has been a panel list before on our roundtable discussions. We're really looking forward to this discussion. It's all about how to learn from previous experiences that have not turned out so well. And kind of have a really great, culture of learning or a growth mindset for your own endeavors. And we're really looking forward to, the insights that the mentors can provide today. So my name is Kunal. I'm one of the community managers here at Mentor Spaces. And Mentor Spaces, our vision is very simple. We want to provide underrepresented talent access to mentors to really develop your confidence and social capital. And we're joined by a few of our mentors today, as well as Kim, as I mentioned. And I'll throw it over to Kim to introduce herself. She will moderate the discussion. I will say that if any point in time you have questions, feel free to raise your hand or post those questions in chat, and we'll get to those questions as the discussion goes forward. So again, this is supposed to be collaborative, and you're open to asking questions at any point in time. So Kim, I'll throw it over to you, and you can go ahead and get started with your intro.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kim Smith here. I'm a manufacturing professional. I've spent my career through various industries in manufacturing. Started out in maintenance and engineering roles, and now progressed to leadership opportunities in operations. And so I'm really glad to be here. And I'll turn it over to Brian.
Brian Teege. I'm 14 years at LinkedIn. I was employee 50. I've spent 25 years in tech. I have a degree in finance, but didn't end up in banking, and really excited to chat with everyone today.
Great. Lastly, Tyrone Ellis, and I'm actually with Trane Technologies, which is a global climate innovator based in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. Been with the organization for about 9 years, and currently the Aftermarket Engineering Leader for our America's business that train HVAC systems. I'm also the president of the Charlotte chapter for National Black MBA Association, which is a partner with our mentoring organization here. So happy to be here.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm really excited for this conversation and to learn how you've grown from setbacks over your career. So let's go ahead and get started. So my first question, whoever feels comfortable jumping in first can go ahead with this one. It's, do you recall a time when you fell short in a significant way in your career?
So Brian, I guess I'll jump on that one first then. Yeah, actually there's several that certainly could give a story around, but I'll choose one. And so before, I guess in my career, there's two companies that I worked with before Trane, Bose Corporation and also Robert Bosch Automotive. And so I think when I was with Bose Corporation, started off as a quality leader with the company, and we were doing really, really well, and we had the opportunity to bring in or grow our Southeast operations with adding a major new platform to the facility. And so, I was asked to. It wasn't going well, let's put it like that, and I wasn't involved, but because of the success we'd had in the automotive front, I was asked to get involved in this consumer portion of this new launch and new product and new production line, pretty significant investment for the company. And so coming into it as a project manager, it was pretty obvious that the team really didn't want me there. The existing team that was doing the transfer, and there was there was tension, information was being guarded, and there was not really what I would call a collaborative project team. which was impacting the success of the program. And I still had my other job, by the way, so I was wearing multiple hats. And so, I think for me, I look at it as a failure because I was asked to do something that we actually didn't occur. And so because the team never really accepted my, and they felt like it was, they never got any input or buy-in into what I was being asked to do by people that were higher up in the organization. And so I think after sitting down with the vice president of manufacturing at the time, we decided, hey, let's just you stick with your role in automotive, and we'll and let the other team, let the ball just land where it lands, because obviously it was not set up for success. So I think the learning for me going through that whole scenario was it's very important that when asked to do this type of temporary assignment, that you get buy-in from all the stakeholders that are involved. And so if I had to do it over again, I would wait and sit down with everybody and make sure they have that one-on-one dialogue and conversation to ensure that we're on the same page about what my role is, where help needed to be put to gain that inertia for the project. And probably would should have challenged my senior leader a little bit more to play a different role when it comes to laying out very clearly to the team what was being my role and what I was being asked to do. So I would say a lot of learnings came from that, and I'm glad that happened earlier in my career. But I would tell you, you're going to run across those, and so I've learned fail fast, and make sure you learn from it. So.
That's a really great example, and definitely important to get that buy-in early on. So Brian, same question. Do you have a call a time when you had fell short in a significant way at work?
Well, I probably have thousands of examples, and I will, to keep it consistent, right? I'll build on Tyrone's failure with my failure, and because it's a similar theme, and I think maybe the consistency will allow more people to absorb how important that is. So I was tasked to take on a project at LinkedIn probably about 6-7 years ago, just like Tyrone was. And they were like, hey, in addition to your day job, take on this job. That's always warning sign number one, to ask a lot of thoughtful questions. Number two, it was a cross-functional partner, right? So I had to interact with multiple business lines. And remember, multiple business lines have their own P&L responsibilities. They have their own objectives, not your objectives. They have their own, right? So warning sign number two. And number three, I didn't have the authority to be a change maker, right? And so if you're going to be tasked with taking on a stretch project, make sure you can validate you have the authority to actually implement the changes that you were tasked with being responsible for. And that deal never happened. I was tasked to take on a monumental deal for LinkedIn, something that LinkedIn had never done. We'll call it in the ballpark of $100 million at the time, with a very decentralized enterprise company that's multinational, has multiple business lines, and would not have, I'd have to herd the cats. And what I realized is being a toothless tiger in the jungle is not a fun place to be. And, so in that failure, I took away the key learnings of make sure you validate with the executives what the objectives are, that you have the authority and resources to implement the changes and objectives, and make sure that there's some sort of reward structure, or recognition structure outside of the acknowledgement of not what to do on a public stage.
Great example. Did that cost you anything in your career by not being successful in that endeavor?
Did it cost me? I think earlier on in my career would have cost me something, and it would have been a self-fulfilling realization, right? I think if we go back to the days when we were teenagers and we have a blemish on our skin, right? And we look in the mirror and we obsess over it. Really, the only person that sees that blemish is us in the mirror, right? Most people pay no mind to it. And I think a lot of our professional failures, we either biasly or I think we biasly influence what people are thinking about our behaviors and our performance because we've already decided if we've won or failed in our mind. And so that consciously or subconsciously that comes out in our behaviors and reinforces that end goal. And so I think if I was earlier in my career, Kim, it would have been detrimental because I would have kept on replaying the failure in my mind. But because of other successes that I had benefited from, it gave me the confidence to own the failure, maybe even deflect it with humor, and be able to take away the learnings, right? And use that instead of a weakness and turn it into a power, right? And I think in our own mind, if we could take power away from people that we've given it to that we shouldn't have, right? Because they're not going to necessarily do anything good with it. We own it, and then we can decide if it's is a strength or a weakness. And so that's the ultimate takeaway. So it didn't turn into detrimental. It was used in numerous global events as a chuckle patch for my boss. And instead of curling up into fetal position in a corner, I used it as a badge of honor. I'm like, aren't you lucky you didn't get tasked with that project, right? And so it created camaraderie with my peers, and I used it as a learning opportunity or knowledge sharing with my younger peers.
That's fantastic. Yeah, very important to be able to frame the discussion and moving forward when you have a setback and how to find the positive in that.
Mm-hmm.
So Tyrone, let's go to our next question here. How important has critical feedback been to your career development?
Oh, great question. And I would say the answer to that is extremely beneficial. I remember earlier in my career, sometimes getting feedback that during annual reviews, or sometimes we do mid-year assessments, and the feedback was all what I would call good feedback, right? There was no opportunity to really grow and learn from that as much. And so I decided to become much more intentional about seeking out that critical feedback. So and I read a book, and I think it was either a John Maxwell or one of the thought leaders out there about seeking feedback from people you've had conflict with. Through the year, through a project, whatever that is. And it's interesting when you do that, it opens up, the door for some very interesting conversation that you may not like. But I had a boss that told me one time, feedback is a gift if you choose to, if you choose to listen and do something with it. So I intentionally actually started looking for, someone that I may have had, getting feedback from people that we may not have been on the same page and or disagreed on an approach or something, and seeking them as input into our feedback mechanism, whether that be 360 feedback or whatever those are. And there's multiple ways you can do that, formally and informally. But that's where the growth comes from. When you can actually get that type of critical feedback, whether it be from someone more senior than you, from a peer, or even from someone who may be someone lower than you in the organizational structure. I think you can learn from all aspects of different people. But the key in my mind is getting that feedback and being willing to listen to it and objectively, and really look for the themes there of how that make that person feel, and as a leader how you can actually learn from that. So for me, it's critical feedback has really benefited me to grow as a leader throughout my career.
That's excellent. Just want to stick with you for 1 second, Tyrone. Do you have any tangible benefits you said you might have, obtained from getting that feedback, an aha moment or anything like that?
Wow, many. I would say that one in particular that kind of stands out. Since I've been with the organization that I'm with now, coming to a role that was a pretty visible role in the company. So I had the opportunity to present in front of the CEO of the organization, and I got some feedback in regards to the engineer in me was framing up the information in a certain way that seems to make perfect sense, but to a CEO, he was looking for something that kind of tied that into more of the glide path of the financials and impact to the overall business and so forth. And so, I actually missed it, right? And so it just, when you think about the presentation and really the key points we wanted to connect the dots on. So I got that critical feedback and, reflecting on that, even though we did many dry runs with a lot of people and we didn't get that feedback until after, the CEO came, and it was obviously he wasn't happy with it, but it's interesting how much I learned from that critical feedback, because it really changed my thought process around how we connect what we do in projects and technical ways to and really give an executive spin to that. And so I read a book called Executive Conversations, and it was one of those game changers where it really ties our technical things to the language of business. And the next few presentations I did were slam dunks with him based on that critical feedback. But we really had to sit back and learn from that. And it was very impactful to what I'm doing today with the company.
Thank you for that. It's like we might have a question. Not yet. Okay. So we'll go ahead and we'll pivot to Brian
We
here.
do actually. Sorry, Kim. Let me jump in here actually,
Okay.
and go ahead and unmute Ulysses. Hey, Ulysses. Feel free to share your question.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. One of the questions I have is, with a project is usually the best projects are usually successful when everyone's working as a group, when everyone's on the same team and respecting each other. But that doesn't always happen. You always have someone that's going the opposite way, and it could destroy the project. What type of things have you put in place to get past this, and when at the beginning of the project, to get everyone on the same page and make sure this does not occur?
Well, the fact that you're thinking about it, Ulysses, is step one, right? I think that sometimes ignorance of human behavior could be the fatal flaw. And I think one of the critical things that I've learned over my career is I want to make sure I'm molding my personality and how I'm interacting with someone based on them, right? Because that I have control over adjusting. And so I use the term judo, right? Because judo is a martial art in which you use the opponent's weight against them.
Yes.
And so you figure out what their motivations are, what their successes are, and how you can use their motivators to get them to commit to the goal, right?
Yeah.
So it becomes a win-win, right? Because I think that unfortunately, people may or may not be able to fully articulate the reasons why they feel a certain way. It could be fear, it could be jealousy, it could be ignorance. There's a whole host of possibilities, and you don't want to bring an opinion on it. You want to use questions to engage them and figure out what it is that's motivating that individual, and use that in the construct of the game plan to make sure you check the box to give them what they need to move forward. And it may not even be rational, right? I mean, I see human beings make a lot of irrational decisions based on what they believe is right, even though there's no fact to support it, right? So if what I need to get done has a time frame and stuff, so I can't worry about my feelings and what I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I have to move the project forward. So that's my opinion on it.
Thank you very much. That sounds great. That's exactly what I was thinking. Thank you. Thank you.
I had just another brief comment piggybacking on Brian. I think I've found that certainly having a very clear charter certainly helps to get the kickoff of the project team on the same page. But you have to, as a project leader, similar to Brian's comments, develop that relationship to really understand motivators, personality profiles and so forth, and look for ways to blend that team together to work as what I like to call the trusty team. Because if a team trusts each other, boy, it's amazing what they can do as far as the results. So yeah, Brian's comments were spot on.
Taking the tools from the Stormin' Norman stage and getting them past the storming stage to the performance stage.
Quickly.
Sound great.
Yep.
Hey, thank you both.
Yeah, and if you can't get them from storming to performing, you figure out how to get them marching out.
Exactly.
Thank you for the question,
Thank you.
Ulysses.
Thank you.
All right, Kim, I'll pass it over to you to continue.
Okay, that was a great question.
Mhm.
So this one I'm gonna give to Brian. So do you seek out critical opinions and feedback?
I do. And, but that is that was a very hard learned behavior. As most adolescents, I was an angry young man. I hated the world. I thought I was perfect. I knew everything and everyone else was foolish. I probably used more blunt terms back in the day. And then, as you enter, a professional world, at least when I was going through in earning my stripes, it was a, what was it? What was it? Knowledge-based society, right? Like we had knowledge bases. You had to own knowledge, right? And it was finite. And if you own the knowledge and control the knowledge, you were going up the ladder. And the perception of not being perfect, right? I mean, we always put on the facade of being perfect, right? And I think all of that time, you didn't want to seek out feedback, because if you were seeking feedback, then you had to somehow admit you were flawed, or that you were lacking confidence, or that maybe you questioned yourself. And all of those were completely unacceptable outcomes back in the day. And, or at least in the construct of my own mind or belief system. And so as I was acquiring confidence in my capabilities and having the right to be at the table, right? Because you had to go figure out where the table was before you could even figure out if you had a right to be there or not, or at least advocate to be at the table. And once I figured all of that out, I realized that one of the greatest exhibitors of confidence in your capabilities is seeking feedback, right? It's not something to be feared. And for me, two groups in particular I seek feedback from, right? Tyrone mentioned executives before. One, I like to ask the newest person at the company for feedback, because they haven't been tainted by the Kool-Aid of the company, right? Whatever that color of Kool-Aid is and whatever you're drinking, I want to make sure that they're not infused with it yet, right? I always say the newest person is the smartest person in the room. The second is I seek out my younger peers, right? I'm at that stage now that unfortunately I could be a lot of my younger peers' parent at this point. And so I go out of my way to seek their opinion, right? One, it helps them build their confidence in delivering feedback and having uncomfortable conversations with people that are older or have a senior role to them, right? So there's a duality of that. But also it's a little bit of the naivete, right? The innocence of what comes out of children's mouths, not that they're children, but sometimes they're just going to say stuff really raw and blunt. And I need to hear that in an uncensored format. And again, their perspectives, right? Their generational differences in the construct of how I think about things. I want to stay modern. I want to stay evolving. I want to keep challenging myself. So if I ask the same people or of similar age as me, I'm always going to get one view of the feedback. And so that's why, in particular, I seek out younger folks and new folks to the organization.
That's fantastic. Great perspective on that. So Tyrone, I've got a different question for you, but kind of building off of what Brian was talking about with his younger self. So what advice would you give your younger self about the values and difficulties of criticism?
Yeah, a couple of things I would say. One, certainly always look at the glass half full versus half empty, right? Certainly, critical feedback can really help you to grow as a professional and as a leader. But it's all based on your internal perspective, on how you view it, and certainly that makes a difference into how you evolve and put together a development plan to really help to, go to that next level. The other thing I probably would add is, don't be afraid to step out there in areas that, that make you uncomfortable. And so, just stepping out on faith, don't be, certainly letting fear hold you back from something that's new or a new challenge. And, sometimes people don't want to admit that what they don't know. And I think that is something that sometimes reflecting on the fact that you're not going to know everything and in a role, and stepping out there and really helps you to stretch yourself, and that critical feedback coming in on when you do that on that role will help you continue to be successful. And so those are probably the two things I would say, Kim, from my perspective.
Fantastic. Some really great advice there. So, yeah, I mean, this has been a fantastic conversation. I've learned so much. Being a moderator has also just been great to see the energy and things of that nature. Any last words you all have around, overcoming failure and using that to your advantage?
I would just quickly say that embrace failure, right? It doesn't define you. It is a learning opportunity. And what Tyrone is saying, I 100% in support of, right? I think that if we don't learn from it, we can't grow from it. And I think the worst thing is, for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. You can't fight the feedback with anger, fear, frustration, jealousy, all the negative things that can be derived from it. It's not an attack, even if it comes from someone who doesn't have the best intent, right? To me, intent is the critical component of how that feedback is delivered, because we all communicate differently, and someone may not use the best words to deliver that feedback to you, but is their intent meant to help make you better, as opposed to the poor word choice they may have used, right? There are always going to be haters. There are going to be people out there that are actually trying to derail you, and they have bad intent. But I think most human beings have good intent. And so don't dial in on the words they're using, dial in on everything else about the intent that they're trying to deliver it. And don't try to react negatively to it. Internalize and say, okay, what is it that I understand, agree with, or what do I have to ask more questions about so I can actually figure out where the gap is, right? And is that an area that I want to improve in, or is that an area maybe that I'm going to decide I don't want to pursue because it's not in my core passion, right? Because I think anyone can learn a skill, but I would challenge everyone to align their skills they're acquiring with their passions, because that's the X factor in them being a 10X performer versus just an.
That's great, Brian. I'll add, Kim, just one other item, and that is, certainly critical feedback as we're reflecting on this topic. Something that's important for us as well is to give good feedback to others, and so certainly we help the whole organization grow when we have that opportunity to do that. And do that, to Brian's point, in a way that's, that's with the intent, being to help the organization and that person grow with that opportunity that you're addressing. So we can't be afraid to give good critical feedback as well. Well, it's good to receive it, but also be a steward of also providing it to others. That helps the whole team grow.
Fantastic. Yeah, feedback is a two-way street there. So we're excited here. I see we're coming up near the end of our time here.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, this was such an empowering discussion. And I hope everyone here got a lot out of this discussion on really, having a growth mindset, and hope you learned something from these mentors who shared how they overcame some setbacks and critical feedback. So as I mentioned earlier, these are hosted. We do them at least twice a week And our next session will be on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. The discussion was going to be about, it's titled Without a Doubt, and we're really going to be focused on defining what imposter syndrome is and how it disproportionately affects high performing and high achieving people. So look forward to hosting that discussion. You may have seen new features on the app for you to get into the session, which we're really excited about. So just in the same way that you joined this session, you'll be able to click on attend and join the session for next week and future sessions. So look forward to hosting additional sessions through the app. And if you have any additional questions, I know, Michelle, your hand is raised. We do try to end these on time, so feel free to ask your question inside of the space where this session is posted, and we'll follow up with any responses there from the mentors who are on this session. And one final note, if you do want to connect with any of the mentors one-on-one, we do provide that opportunity. So if you feel like you can learn something from these individuals in a personalized one-on-one discussion, feel free to raise your hand by messaging us through the concierge channel, and we'll make that introduction if there's availability for these mentors. So again, thank you for joining the discussion, and look forward to hosting additional ones. Thank you all for your time, and look forward to additional sessions with all of you as well.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank
good
you.
afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Right.